Hi, I'm Josh Dalswich from Amish Handcrafted. Today we have something really special for you. We'd like to take you step by step through the process of building a cedar chest. So very important, when we build a cedar chest, we start with solid cedar wood. We use aromatic red cedar. It's all sourced from North America. On the final product, we're going to end with a 3/4 inch thickness for the front, back, sides, and the top and bottom of the chest, all 3/4 inch thick. The beginning, when we start with the wood, we're going to have a 1 inch thick board, and then we'll work it down to 3/4 inch as we go through the process. Okay, so for step 2, we have our cedar wood, and what we're going to do is we're going to work towards gluing a panel together like this. So as you can see here, we have several pieces glued together. To get to that point, we need to cut off any imperfections in the boards. We have, sometimes in a stack of lumber, you have open knots, you have white edges on cedar boards. On here, most of it has been cut out. You can see a little bit here, and a little bit on the final is fine, but we want to cut out any large white sections and any cracks. Once we get to that point, we're ready for the next step of gluing. Okay, so for step 3, we're going to go into gluing the panels together. Once again, we're trying to get to this point here. So we have our trimmed pieces of cedar. We'll glue them together, putting glue on the edges of each board, clamping them, and let the glue dry for about 30 minutes until we can work with that board again. We're going to need six panels, one for the front, another for the back. Those are identical. Same for the top and the bottom, and then the 2 sides. Okay, so for step 4, we now have our panels glued together. So we're going to take them to the planer, and we're going to run them through the planer. So remember, we have about a 1 inch thick piece. We'll run them through the planer 3 times. We'll do one side, flip it over to the other side, and then carefully examine the panels to see if there's any glue joints that are not completely smoothed over. Plane that side again, and we'll have a thickness of just over 3/4 of an inch at that point. After we're done in the planer, we take it over to the wide belt sander and run it through there 2 times, one on either side, and that will take the thickness down to exactly 3/4 inch at that point. Okay, step number 5, we're going to take the panels that we've cut and planed. We're going to use the front and back pieces to put a dado joint on the end. The purpose of that joint is to fit the side pieces into that joint so that we can put the box together. This joint will have glue. It'll also be held together with nails. So once we put that together, we're going to also clamp it for about a half an hour to hold the glue together to the wood and let the glue dry for a period of time before we move on to the next step. Step number 6, we're going to focus on the top and bottom of the chest. We're going to take these 2 panels that we've created for the top and bottom. We're going to run them through the shaper and put a profile on the front and the sides of these 2 pieces. These 2 pieces are identical, the exact same size. The bottom is mounted to the box of the chest with nails that are put in from underneath, and these lid battens are put on here to keep the lid flat so that it continues to remain flat over time and sit nicely on the top of the chest. So for step number 7, we're going to put the legs on the chest. First, we'll begin with cutting a 2 inch wide piece of cedar. Cut them to length and also cut this profile on the end of each piece. Put this corner together by cutting a 45-degree angle and nailing these 2 corners together. Once you have a corner together, we pre-drill into the bottom of the chest 2 screws, 1 on each leg, and fasten this corner piece into the bottom of the chest. Same process for all 4 corners, and the legs are in place. Okay, so step number 8, we're going to sand the chest and we're going to finish it. So we'll start off with a palm sander with a 120 grit sandpaper. We'll sand it on all 4 sides. We'll sand the top again. And we want to then follow up with a 150 grit sandpaper. At that point, after everything is sanded the second time with a 150 grit, we make sure, carefully look over everything, make sure that there are no minor scratches or anything of that sort. We take it over to the finish room and we're going to spray the chest with a conversion varnish. It's a very durable finish. So what we'll do is we'll spray it on one time and then let the finish dry. In between coats, we lightly sand it by hand and we'll finish with one more coat. And this is what you end up with after the finish is applied. So we're off to step number 9, and this step involves putting the hardware on. So what we have here is the hinges and the lid supports. On this particular chest, we don't have a lock, but some chests would have a lock here that you would also add at this point, or could be added at that point. We put the hinges on by pre-drilling holes. There's 3 of them on the lid and 3 of them into the top of the chest. We want to make sure to pre-drill those holes so we don't have any cracking or splintering that occurs in the wood when we put the screws in. Same thing with these lid supports. The lid support is here to hold the lid open. If you're working inside the chest, you lock this in place and it will keep the lid from falling shut. Once these are in place, the chest is completed and ready to use. Okay, so our last step is to enjoy the chest. It is now completed, and what we have here is a very well-made solid cedar chest that will last for generations if properly taken care of. So if you decide to take on this project of building a cedar chest on your own, we sure hope this video was helpful. If you decide that it's a bit overwhelming to do a project like that on your own, certainly check out our collection at Amish-handcrafted.com. And if you have enjoyed this video, feel free to hit the like and subscribe button.